Hey guys, it's Tahira, and today I am talking about all the books I read in the month of September. I literally cannot believe that it's already October. I feel like this year went by so quickly, but in the month of September I managed to read like 7 books, which I feel like is pretty good. Although 2 of them are more like short stories, I'm still counting them, and I feel like I still had a pretty solid reading month. I'm gonna go into the stats here. So in the month of September I read, as I said, 7 books. 3 of those books were fantasy, 2 were romance. I had 1 thriller and 1 mystery, and I'm counting them separate because I feel like the books are like really different from each other. And then all of this comes around to a total of 2,373 pages. And a new statistic that I started doing this month because I thought it was interesting was that my average rating was 3.07 for all the books that I read. But yeah, anyway, a couple of them were rereads. Some of them were hyped books that I've been seeing. So it's a good mix, as you can also see genre-wise. But I'm gonna go ahead and start talking about the books that I read. The first one was actually a reread because I started my Throne of Glass reread for this fall. I'm trying to read the whole series in the next few months, and I didn't start with Assassin's Blade. I started with Throne of Glass, so that was my first book for the month of September, and of course I ended up giving this 5 stars. This one is a super popular fantasy romance series. Everyone, I feel like, knows what Throne of Glass is, but if you don't, this one follows this girl named Selena Sardothian, and she is a slave in this, like, these salt mines. So she kind of has to mine salt because of something that she did, and then the prince and the captain of the guard come and end up taking her, and she's like a really well-known assassin in her land, so they bring her to join as part of this competition to become the king's champion. So basically to do his dirty work for him, and she has to compete with 24 other assassins from around the land in order to get that position. And if she wins and she serves her years, she will end up getting freedom. This is one of my favorite series of all time. I read this first back when I was probably 13 or 14 years old, and I've reread this book particularly probably, like, honestly 4 to 5 times at this point. I absolutely love this entire series, and I can't wait to continue on with my reread. I really enjoyed my time, like, it being in the world again. And this time, something different from past rereads is, especially after reading the Crescent City series, going into spoilers, but that series and this series and all of her series are kind of connected. All her universes are connected, and so I had like a lot of fun, like, going through kind of the history. When they started talking about the history of the world, I was trying to like think about how it could connect and how it connects to like the other worlds and what was talked about in the Crescent City book. So that was really fun, and I feel like it brought like a whole new level of enjoyment. I don't know, it's so exciting to know that all these books are like connected and to try to pick up on little hints. Like, that was just really fun. Then I read a very short story. It was basically like 160 pages, and it was a book I read for my Reading Unhinged Romances video, but I read Forked by Ruth Cardello, which is a fork romance. This one was honestly very boring for being a fork romance. I feel like it could have been definitely more interesting and could have been definitely more wild than it was. Like, the stuff that happened with the forks was honestly so tame compared to what I was expecting in my mind. But yeah, of course, this is a 1 star, and I don't know, overall it was boring. Then I read another book for that video, and that was Bagged by the Groceries. I don't know who the author is, but this one was even shorter, just around 54 pages, and this one is about this like woman who basically has sex with her groceries, and her grocery like turns into a man. It was kind of weird, and in a bad way, so I ended up giving this 1 star as well, but so I'm just gonna be brushing over those. Then I continued on with my Throne of Glass reread, and I read Crown of Midnight. This one was a continuation, as I said, of the story. It's the 2nd book. I don't really have much thoughts to say about this one either, but of course I really enjoyed my time rereading it. And this one is a 5 star as well. I will be keeping all the books 5 stars always. And I'm not counting it in my 5 stars for the year because it's not like a new book. So it's 5 stars, but it's not like a new 5 star for me. Because if you know, I have had a 5 star drought. For the past year, I only have 1 5 star this year, which is such a tragedy. And spoiler alert, there's no 5 stars in this wrap up. Then I wanted something like kind of fast paced and entertaining, and so of course I picked up Miss Frida McFadden and I read The Teacher. This one is about two different characters. We have basically a couple, a husband and a wife, and they're both teachers teaching at this local high school. So it follows their story, and then it follows another girl named Addie, who is kind of this troubled girl. She kind of got in trouble for something at her school that may or may not have been true, and so she kind of carries that with her going into the new school year. Like, her reputation is kind of tainted, and it sort of follows the journey as Addie kind of starts becoming closer to this couple, I guess, like of teachers at the school, and it just kind of follows their story. I really don't know how to explain this. This one I ended up giving 3 stars, which I feel like is my most common rating for a Frida McFadden book. Like, I usually haven't given anything higher than a 3 or 4 star. Her books just, like, I read them for the entertainment value because she really does a really great job with the twists, in my opinion. Like, she really does get me, and if I want, like, I know if I'm picking her book up, I'll be shocked at the end. I'll be gasping at like what's happening, and I will completely not be able to predict what's going on. And so I picked her books up for that reason, and less for like her amazing writing or like amazing plot structure or anything. Like, I don't think her writing is stellar, but her stories are like really short and fast-paced and just like good for a quick read, and that's what I wanted. This one was shaping out to be a really good book, like going on, but it was a bit too long. It is around 400 pages, which is a little bit longer than her other books, but I don't know, overall it was just a little bit longer than I wanted, and it kind of did get a lot more serious and dark than I was expecting. I feel like sometimes her books have that like pop psychological thriller, like it's very entertaining, very movie-like, but this one definitely delved into like more serious and darker topics, like exploring relationships between a student and a teacher, and grooming, and just things surrounding that. So definitely, if I would put a trigger warning on it for that if you're like sensitive with those topics. Some of the twists were not as shocking. I did predict like some of the smaller ones, but like the big one at the end, I like completely was not expecting that, but like it got me, but I don't understand it. I think as I saw other people mention this in Goodreads reviews, is that ending felt more like a reveal added just for the shock value rather than actually making sense and actually adding to the story. And then one of my other biggest gripes from this book is that there is this, as I said, there's this girl named Addie, and she kind of has to deal with this girl named Kenzie, who's like basically the Regina George of her school. She's like really mean to her. She's pulling like mean like pranks basically on her all the time, and she just felt a little bit too mean. Like, I feel like Frida McFadden in this book, it didn't really feel like she knew how to write children, and children more in the sense of like high schoolers. She did capture some of the relationships and what it's like being a teenager really well, but in this case, like writing the mean girl, I don't think she did a good job. She made her almost like too cartoonish mean girl, and like one of the pranks she did was literally filling Addie's locker with shaving cream, and I was like, literally no one does that. No one does that in high school. Like, no one's gonna do that. So I don't know, she just felt a little bit unrealistic to me as a character. So yeah, definitely a fun, like, I guess thriller book if you're looking for something fast-paced, but not like one of my favorite Frida McFaddens. But I'm definitely going to continue on with her books. We all know this. Then I continued on with the Caraval series because I'm rereading that this year because I want to read Finale, the last book, which I've never gotten to. So I read Legendary, which is the second book. I don't know how like to really talk about sequels because it's the second book, and so I feel like it's gonna spoil things that happened in the first book, so I'm not gonna talk too much about the plot. This one I ended up giving like 3.5 stars. Caraval I gave 4 stars, so I did like it a little bit less than Caraval. So if you don't know, Caraval is about like this dark carnival game basically, and these two sisters go. One of the sisters becomes a part of the game, and the other sister has to find her through all these like clues and going through the carnival basically. And this one kind of has the same premise. There is a carnival, but this time there's like a lot higher stakes, ones that can like literally affect the whole world. So this is basically like, it's kind of the same game type carnival aspect to it, but with like a much higher stakes than the first book. So this one does clock in at like just about 450 pages, which I feel like is a pretty solid length for a book. But because of that length, it felt like it got a little bit slow at times. And I feel like sometimes the romance aspects kind of took precedent over the game itself. I feel like the Caraval aspect of it got pushed aside a little bit. I still really enjoyed the story and the writing. I feel like Stephanie Garber does like know how to write like really enchanting, whimsical stories and worlds, and I feel like that was definitely present in this book. But overall, I feel like the story was just a little bit slower. So one of the main things about Caraval is that it's run by this man, mysterious man named Legend, and no one knows who Legend is, who actually, like, no one's seen him, no one knows anything about him basically, but just like he's this like kind of ever looming presence that kind of runs Caraval. And one of the like things that are part of this game is that they have to figure out Legend's true name, because no one ever knows, and the people that do know have like some sort of curse on them that they can't say it, like they physically won't be able to. So the point of the game was kind of to figure out what Legend's true name is, and then as we go throughout the story, one of the characters makes a theory, like they have a theory about who Legend is, and that theory ends up like coming up and again, and they're always wondering like, I think this is Legend, or what if this is Legend? So in the end, it ended up exactly being, I feel like I'm gonna spoil the book, but it ended up basically being exactly who they were thinking, which made the twist and the reveal like not really exciting, because we already kind of got primed for it before it actually came. So I just wish like the reveal and the twist, I guess, at the end was a little bit more shocking, and the very last twist, I guess, that happened at the very end was also like pretty predictable. Now I will say this is a YA book, so I'm not gonna harp on it too much, but I don't know, I feel like the reveal about who Legend is definitely could have been executed a lot better than it was. And now that we've had like 2 books with a game aspect in it, I'm hesitant going into the last book a little bit, because I don't want it to feel like the same. By the way, I have no idea what the last book is about, but I just hope it's not like a 3rd game. I feel like we need to move past that and explore like different parts of the story. And I hope that the last book can deliver. And then the last book that I read was a super popular like mystery book that's been going around. I've been seeing it everywhere, and it was also the Literally Dead Book Club's pick for the month of September, so that's why like my main reason that I picked it up. But that is The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. This one was a really conflicting read for me. I ended up giving it like 3 stars, but for most of it, I was debating on whether I wanted it to be a 3 or a 4, because I was really enjoying it. But this is like categorized and I think marketed as like a mystery book, but it's like around 480 pages, so just under 500 pages, which I feel like is very, very rare for a mystery book to be longer than 400-ish pages. Like usually it's not reaching the 500 page mark, and this one absolutely was touching the 500 page mark almost, but I feel like it did not need to, and it felt like really slow at times because of that. And that's why I feel like I would categorize this as more of like a mystery, but like more of a literary fiction almost, because it didn't even feel like a traditional mystery thriller where like I feel like super popular ones are like really fast paced and they kind of keep you on the edge of their seat, and it's much more about the plot and than it is about the characters. But this one is definitely a lot more about the characters than it is about the plot. But yeah, the length caused it to meander a bit in the middle, and I don't know, I was really interested in the middle, and I'm really interested in the end, like once things start picking up again. But there was like a middle portion where I thought it was really slow, and I was just kind of waiting for like reveals to happen, things to like kind of piece together. And I feel like we definitely got that in the last like 100 and 150 pages, but there was a big chunk in the middle where I was kind of just bored, honestly. And the ending wasn't even super like shocking, and I feel like that's just a testament to that this is more of a literary fiction than it is a mystery, because the mystery wasn't even like the reveal, I guess, of what happened is, I don't even know, like it's not even, it was like brushed over. It wasn't like even a cliffhanger or like a big moment or anything. It just kind of was in the middle of the book, a middle of a chapter. It was kind of brushed over. It was kind of like, oh, this happened, okay, and then it moved on. I have completely forgotten to give you the plot of this book, but this one follows like this girl that disappears from a summer camp, and it also follows like 20 years ago where her brother disappeared, and so it kind of follows these 2 timelines. And kind of going through the timeline of trying to find her brother, and then the timeline of when she disappears and trying to find her. So yeah, there was a lot going on and it was really slow. And one of the major things that kind of I feel like brought my rating down a little bit more as well is that there's a lot of like times in this book. Like it goes through a lot of years, but it's not even that it's like goes through years lengthwise, like the story's over a 20-year period. It's more like it jumps around in a lot of different years. So we have 1951, I think, and then we have 1950s, and then we have 1961, and then we have June, July, and August 1975. So June, July, August, and September 1975. But it felt like that there was too many, and in the beginning, like it kind of got confusing about what time we're in and what that was supposed to signify. It definitely got more clarity. I definitely got more clarity as the book went on, but I don't know. It just, obviously it was a little bit confusing to me at first. And then June, July, August, and September are all like really close to each other, so I was scared that I would start confusing the months and kind of like what they represent. But honestly, like that was fine to me. I think it's just in the like for a little bit in the beginning part of my experience of reading the book, the timings and jumping around the years got a little bit confusing to me, and it definitely like kind of hindered my experience reading the book. Maybe I'm just not smart enough, which is probably the case. It's probably not the author's fault, it's probably just my brain. But yeah, those are the 7 books that I read in the month of September. I read a pretty big diversity of books. I read a lot of different genres. So yeah, I have a lot of really exciting books that I want to get to in the month of October. It is October 1st, the day I'm filming this, and I can already feel the reading mood. Like the book I'm reading right now, I'm really excited about it. And yeah, here's to hoping I read more books in the month of October. But yeah, let me know down below if you read any of these books, as of course I would love to know. But that is it for this video. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye.